Hi guys, back with another video. This video I'm going to show you how to make some minnow rigs. Since Pennsylvania's trout season is just around the corner, these might be something you might want to try. Now I got several of the things you need here. I'm going to put one together and show you how to use them. But for years I used to fish without this spinner blade. I would just thread a minnow onto my line using a double hook, and I would use a swivel, and I would fish the current, little rapids, the riffles and stuff like that in the stream, and I had pretty good luck. But a few years ago somebody showed me this. Matt, I'll give you credit for this. He showed me what he does. He uses a spinner blade, makes up these little rigs, and I'll tell you what, you get a lot more fish with these, with the spinner blade, because you have a little bit of everything. You got the flashing, which attracts the fish. You actually have live bait on your hook, which gives the smell and the taste of something real, and it really gets the trout's attention. So I'm going to put one of these together and I'll show you how I do it. Alright guys, got everything here that you're going to be using. As you can see, I got some different size spinner blades. I have tried making rigs with these smaller blades and they just don't work as well. You don't get the spinning that you really need. What you really want, you want the blades that are about the size of a penny. This one's a gold one. I use silver. Seems like I have luck with both of them depending on how cloudy the water is. But you want to get these spinner blades about the size of a penny. I'm not sure if they're called quarter ounce or what they are. I'm not sure, but I just know they're the size of a penny. The other thing you want to get are these little clevises. This is what's going to hold your blade to the line. And you also need some kind of small bead. As you can see here, here's a minnow rig that's already made up. It just uses a small plastic piece of tubing. I'll explain why you need that later on. But you do need some kind of small bead or something. And I use 6-pound test line. I think it works the best. And when you actually do the fishing, you're going to want some double hooks. I like to use size 10. Some people use 12. I like 10. They're just a little bit bigger, and I think they hook into the fish just a little bit better. And one other thing you want are these barrel swivels. You can see I got two different kinds, two different sizes. I think these are 10 and 12. I'm not positive, but this is about the size you want. This isn't really as important, the size, but that's what you want to get. Okay, the first thing you want to do, this is just a rubber minnow. I'm going to demonstrate how you use this. And the other thing you need to thread the minnow on the hook, you need these needles. They're actually for threading minnows onto a hook. I'll show you how you use these later. The first thing you want to do is you want to get yourself a piece of line about 8 or 10 inches long. I'm hoping this will show up. See if we could. I'm going to zoom this in so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, the first thing you want to do is tie a loop in one end of your piece of monofilament. And this could be a little bit tricky. There are different ways to tie your loop, but you don't want the loop to collapse when you pull on the line. You want it to stay there. And you want to try to keep the loop kind of small. Alright, the first thing you want to do is tie a loop in one end of your line. Now you want to keep this loop rather small, and you don't want it to collapse. When you pull on it like this, you don't want the loop to collapse. And you want to trim this off pretty close, this extra piece here. You want to trim this off. I'll explain that later too. Make sure you don't cut your other line. Alright. So the first thing we want to put on is your bead, or your small tubing, or whatever you have. You want to put that on first. This video is going to be a little tough to make because my eyes and my fingers don't thread needles like they used to. Alright, we got the bead threaded on there. And you want to make sure that it doesn't pass over your knot for your loop. So you want to make sure whatever beads you use have a small enough diameter hole that that's not going to slip over top of your knot you have for your loop. Next thing you want to do is you get your clevis and your spinner blade. Now this is a little bit tricky too, because what you need to do is put it through one side of the clevis, then put your spinner blade onto your clevis and then thread through the other side of the clevis. And you want to make sure the spinner blade, the back of the spinner blade is towards your loop and your bead. You know, make sure the back of it is back there. And this is the tricky part, getting this threaded through a second time. If you're like me, the older you get, your fingers and stuff just don't work as good as they used to. That's what you want it to do. You want it to be on there so it'll swivel around and around. Then at the other end of your line, what you want to do is you want to tie on your barrel swivel. You could use different kinds of knots. I'm not sure, I think this is called a clinch knot that I'm going to use here. Alright, I got that on there. And you also want to trim off this extra piece of line here. So this is what you end up with. You get your swivel and your loop. Let me show you how you do what you do then. Alright, we got everything put together. We got the barrel swivel on there. Got the spinner blade. Everything is set up here. This thing's ready to fish with. And what you want to do is you want to get these minnow needles. If you could see that, the eye of the needle is kind of C-shaped. Has a little gap there. That's so you can thread this loop through. Like this. So you hold, this is kind of tricky when you're out there standing in the riffles trying to thread a minnow on the hook. Now this is just a rubber minnow, but what you want to do is go through the mouth. A little bit tougher with the rubber minnow than it is a live one. And out the vent. Alright, so you got your, you can see it's through the minnow there. Now you get your double hook, and what you do is just thread that loop and just put that through around on your double hook like that so that it's on there. And the reason you want to cut this string off, this little bit of extra that's on there on your loop, the reason you cut that off is so when you pull this back up through, it goes in easier. Now here's the thing, I like to fish with my minnows with the hooks facing down like that, but maybe if you're fishing there's a lot of rocks and there's a lot of debris and stuff you could get snagged on. Some people like to fish with them up along the minnow's back, kind of like that, and then you just push this right, the eye of that hook right back up into the minnow. And the nice thing with fishing with these, a lot of times when you reach in your minnow bucket, you got minnows floating at the top that are dead or half dead. Well, it really doesn't matter when you're fishing with these if the minnow's dead or not, because they're still going to work just as good. But some people like to tuck the minnows up. Some people like to tuck the hooks up along the back of the minnow. I've done that. I've caught fish like that, but I seem like I miss more fish. I just don't hook them. I have to re-thread a minnow back on my hook. So I like to fish with them down, unless I'm getting a lot of snags on debris and rocks and stuff like that, I'll turn them up the other way. But I like to fish with them down like that. Now here's where I was explaining about that bead. The reason you want to have that bead on there, because what that does, this bead helps keep the spinner blade away from the minnow so that it's more likely to spin around. Because if you didn't have the bead there, the blade would be right up against the mouth of the minnow and you might not get the spinning action that you really need. But these things work pretty good. Like I mean, trout season's just around the corner. I've had a lot of success with trout with these things. Caught a few crappie, even a few bass with minnows rigged like this. But so if you get yourself, this is what you need. You need your 6-pound test line. You need your spinner blades, about the size of a penny. I got these at Cabela's. These are gold. Sometimes I think silver are better. You need some kind of beads, some kind of plastic tubing with a small diameter hole. It really doesn't matter what color, I don't think. But and you need some barrel swivels. And when before you hit the stream, you're gonna need to get yourself some of these Minnow Needles and some double hooks. I like to use 10 or sometimes 12, but usually I like to use size 10. But that's it. That's how to make a minnow rig.